Hey everyone, and welcome back to the series of Python. In this session, we will start talking about data types. This is a new and important topic, so hopefully you are excited for it. Let's get started. So now let's first of all understand what do we mean by data types. Data types are the types of values or data that we use in our program. So you might be remembering that we make some variables, let's say ABC. Just a second, let me just show you. Let's say we made a variable called ABC and we stored a value of, let's say, 98. Now if we run print ABC, obviously we are going to be getting 98 as the output on the screen, right? So but we don't want to do that here. Just a second. So let's say we have two variables, ABC, that is storing the value of 98, and another variable called def, which is storing a value of hello as a text. So obviously these two things are nothing but variables, but the values which both of those variables are storing are actually different. And what I mean by different is they are different in type. If you can notice properly, this is a number and this is a text, right? So basically these things are called as data types. The types of the values or data that we use on in our program, for example, let's say type of 98, type of hello, and there can be much more data types than just text and numbers, and we are going to see that right now. Now let's see the classification of data types in Python. So in Python, data types are broadly divided into 5 categories. First, numeric; second, dictionary; third, boolean; fourth, set; and fifth, sequence. Now we will understand all of these data types separately and in detail, but in this session I am just going to give you some basic ideas about them, at least for some of them. So we have the first of all numeric data type, which is further divided into several types. First is integer. Just ignore the r here, it's integer, okay? integer. Second, float, and third, complex. And then sequence is also divided into 3 types, which is first of all strings, then list, and then tuple or tuple, whatever you want to call it. So now let's move on. Now let's say we have made a variable called a and stored a value of, let's say, 3 in that, and we have made a different variable called, let's say, b, and stored a value of, let's say, anything, d, e, f, g, h, I, whatever. We have stored this text. Now how do we know what variable is storing what type of value? Let's say we want to know the type or the data type of the values being stored in this variable, and by this I mean a. Let's say we want to know what type of value uh, is being stored in this variable called a. So how do we do that? Well, that's where type function comes into picture. Type function is used to check the type of data or value in a program. Up to this point, we have only understood about one function, that is print function. Today we are looking at a new function called as type function. This function tells us about the type of any data which might be stored in a variable or might not be. Let's see this in action. Let's actually open up ideally and see that in action right there. So let's say we made a variable called a and stored a value of 9, like that. Let's say we made a different variable b and in this variable we are storing any kind of text. Let's say D, F, G, H, I. You can store whatever you like. Now let's say we don't know what type of data has been stored in A. Okay, so how do we check that? Well, for checking that, we can use something called type function. Okay, and whatever this function will calculate, we can then print them using the print function, right? So what this statement means, just understand carefully. First of all, we are checking the type of A, right? Let me just say this first of all. So what happens when I do this? You might already be knowing that we are going to be getting 9. Okay, it's because I'm just printing A over here and the value of A is 9. But let's say we do the same thing, but instead of just printing A, we are uh, going to be printing type A, and this type function will actually calculate or process and tell us about the type of the data being stored in A. So this time we are not just printing plain A, we are actually printing type of A. So let's see what happens. It says class int, and this int means that its data type is integer. Let me just show you here. See, there's a data type called integer over here, right? Under the numeric section. So this int here means that it's an integer. Obviously, if you have learned some basic maths, you might be knowing that 9 is an integer. Now what happens when I do it on a variable that contains a text? Let's say type B. We know that B has a text value inside of it. We got str over here. So ignore the word class for now. Just focus on this thing, int and then str. So what is str over here? Now str actually stands for strings. So until now I was just calling this thing text every time. For now, whenever I say string, just understand it's a plain text. A string is nothing but a plain text. Like it might be anything enclosed within double quotes or even single quotes like this. Even it can be numbers along with letters or without letters, it doesn't matter. It just has to be a collection of characters within single quotes or double quotes, and that's a string. So this is why B was storing a string and we got class str over here. This str stands for string and int stands for integer. So I hope type function is clear now. And if you have any confusion about anything like type function or what are data types or anything like that, please feel free to ask in the comments. So this is it for the first session on data types. Yes, there will be much more sessions on data types. We will understand all those data types in detail in later sessions. So hopefully you are excited for them. I have provided some links in the description if you want to know or learn more about data types in Python. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.